Welcome to Learn This Game, where you can learn about board games and how they are played. Today, we'll be looking at One Deck Dungeon. In this video, there'll be a general description and overview of the game. We'll inventory the components, and we'll go through gameplay, including setup, sample turns, and victory conditions. In the description, there'll be some helpful links. There's also a timestamp index so you can navigate directly to any part of the presentation. If you want to skip this introduction and go straight to the setup and gameplay, you can go to the timestamp index now in the description. And if you find this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. You can also leave a comment to let us know what game you'd like to see reviewed, or if you have this game, share your opinion. One Deck Dungeon was published by Asmadi Games in 2016 and designed by Chris Cieslik. In this fantasy game, you control a character who must explore and survive a dungeon in order to reach and defeat a dungeon boss. The age recommendation is 14 and older. The difficulty level is low, and each game averages about 30 minutes to play. The game is designed for 1 to 2 players, and up to 4 players can participate with an additional copy of the game. An app is not required, but standalone apps are available on Google, Apple, and Steam. Links will be in the description. There is one standalone expansion called Forest of Shadows. There is also an expansion called Abyssal Depths, which contains 6 large fiend cards and 3 additional heroes. Now that you've seen a brief introduction to the game, let's get into the game itself. This is a card-driven game that also uses dice. As the name suggests, the dungeon is represented in one deck. This game has a dungeon crawling theme where you assume the role of various fantasy characters to explore dungeons and fight bosses. Now let's see how to win the game. You must explore and survive 3 levels of a dungeon in order to access the boss. If you can inflict damage equal to the boss's health, you win the game. Now let's review the components. There is one 32-page color rulebook that also includes complete instructions for the expansion Forest of Shadows. There is one campaign sheet pad that you can use for the campaign mode. Campaign mode allows you to build up a hero's power over several plays. There are 5 hero cards representing different fantasy characters. There are 5 monster bosses to choose from. Each represents a different dungeon on the back of their cards. There are 44 encounter cards indicated by the closed doors on their backs. Encounter cards come in 2 types, perils and combat, as indicated by these icons. There is one turn reference card that helps keep track of the steps in a turn. There are 4 double-sided level cards. There are 2 double-sided basic skills cards. These are only used when playing the campaign. And there is 1 double-sided stairs card for 1 to 2 or 4 players. There are 30 6-sided dice divided into 4 colors. The colors represent different abilities. And there are 15 red damage tokens and 6 white potion tokens. Now let's set up the game for our playthrough. We'll be playing the solo mode using 1 character. First, we'll select our hero and dungeon. We'll select the warrior and use the 1-player side. Then we'll select the dungeon. We'll select the Dragon's Cave. Each dungeon shows 1 to 3 dots to indicate the dungeon's difficulty level. 3 is the most difficult. The Dragon's Cave has a difficulty level of 1. Each dungeon has 3 levels starting at floor 1. When all 3 floors have been completed, the card is flipped over to reveal the boss of the dungeon. After selecting our hero and dungeon, we'll place the turn reference card on the dungeon card covering the 2nd and 3rd floors. The turn reference card will be moved down to reveal the next floor after we complete the current floor. Next, we'll place the level cards in order with level 4 at the bottom and level 1 on top. We'll use the 1-player side. We then place the stairs card with the 1-player side face up. We then shuffle the encounter cards and place them face down on the stairs card. When we go through all the encounter cards, we'll reshuffle them and place them back on the stairs card, and then move the turn reference card down to reveal the next floor. We also leave some room to discard encounter cards. The level 1 card instructs us to place a white potion token on the turn reference card. We'll also designate an area for the dice and tokens. This is known as the general supply. Now let's see how the game is played. Again, we'll be playing the solo version. In the Dragon's Cave dungeon, the dungeon card indicates we must spend 5 time before we take the first turn on each floor. The hourglass represents time, and each hourglass icon represents 1 encounter card. So to satisfy the requirement of spending 5 time, we discard 5 cards from the encounter deck by drawing cards from the top of the deck and placing them face up on the discard pile. We must later discard 5 encounter cards at the beginning of each new floor. We reach a new floor when we have exhausted the encounter deck and the stairs card becomes visible. We then look at the top of the turn reference card, which states we must discard 2 times at the start of each turn, so we turn over 2 more encounter cards. Next, the turn reference card shows we must either explore or enter a room. Since there are no rooms available yet, we will explore. We explore by placing 4 cards from the encounter deck face down in the dungeon area. Open doors and closed doors already in the dungeon area count towards the limit of 4, so when exploring, we would only draw enough cards to reach the 4-card limit. We cannot explore if there are already 4 doors or the stairs card is visible, since that would mean there are no more encounter cards available to draw. This ends the first turn, so we start a new turn by discarding 2 more encounter cards. Next, we can explore or enter a room. Since there are 4 doors in the dungeon area, we cannot add any more, so we proceed to enter a room. We can select any closed or open door. We select one at random. We find the peril locked door as indicated by the peril icon. As shown previously, there are 2 types of encounter cards, perils and combat. Combat involves monsters to fight, while perils are obstacles to overcome. We must decide if we want to encounter the peril or flee. If we flee, we do not suffer any effects of the encounter, but the turn ends and we start another turn without making any gains. The encounter would also remain facing up and would be considered an open encounter during future turns. Before we decide to encounter or flee, let's take a look at the hero card to help us analyze the situation. The items area shows the type and number of dice available for this hero to roll during an encounter, and also the number of health or hit points this hero can take before dying. The yellow icons represent the strength dice, and this hero currently can roll 4 yellow dice. The pink icons represent agility, and this card currently shows the hero can roll 2 pink agility dice. The blue icon represents magic, for which this hero can roll 1 blue die. The black dice are heroic dice and can take the place of any colored die unless otherwise indicated on the encounter card. The heart icons represent the hero's health. When the hero has at least the same number of damage tokens as health points, the game is over. Each hero also has an heroic feat which is used during the second step of the encounter. This hero can store a black heroic die for each damage suffered, up to 2 at a time. As indicated by the corresponding icons, this frenzy heroic feat can be used during combat and peril encounters, but the crossed out skull indicates this feat cannot be used against the eventual boss encounter. Below the heroic feat is the hero's starting skill. Additional skills and items can be added as encounters are completed. At the bottom left of the screen, the level card indicates that at level 1, the hero can only add 1 additional item and 2 additional skills. Any gained experience points are placed next to the level card until the indicated number is reached, and then the current level card is replaced with the next higher level card. We now need to determine if we want to encounter the peril or flee. For every encounter, we must first consult the dungeon card to determine what challenge boxes apply in addition to the challenge boxes on the encounter card. We see that there is 1 challenge box on the peril side of the dungeon card. It is a single die challenge box, so we can only place 1 die there. The green armor icon indicates we must successfully place a die here before we can place any additional dice on remaining challenge boxes. Since there is no background image in the box, we can place any type of die here that has a value of 2 or greater in order to satisfy the challenge box. We would then proceed to the challenge boxes on the encounter card. Now let's look at the peril encounter to determine if we will flee or encounter it. Peril encounters present 2 options to resolve the encounter. In this peril, our first choice is to pick the lock. This will cost us 1 time even before we roll our dice. Each encounter card has challenge boxes that either accommodate 1 or multiple dice. The wide box indicates we can put unlimited multiple dice in the area instead of just 1. According to the background image in the first wide box, we would roll our pink agility dice attempting to produce a total result of 8 or higher. The icons shown are the resulting damage if we do not defeat the challenge box. Hearts show how many health damage tokens we would have to apply to our hero, and the time icons indicate how many encounter cards we would have to discard. According to our hero card, we have 2 agility dice we can roll. If we do not get a total of at least 8 on our pink agility dice, we will suffer the consequences listed in the wide box, but we would still be able to acquire the loot on the card as long as we are still alive after our dice roll. The second option does not cost us any time at the beginning of the encounter. but the background image of this wide box indicates we must roll our yellow strength dice and obtain a total of at least 11 to avoid 2 health damage and 2 time loss. Even if we lose and suffer the consequences, we will still be entitled to claim loot as long as we survive the encounter. Since we can roll 4 yellow strength dice, we decide to encounter this peril and select the second option. We can now refer to the encounter section on the turn reference card, which lists the sequence of steps. Step 1. Since this is a peril, we chose the second option. Step 2. We cannot use our heroic feat at this time. Step 3. We gather our yellow strength dice only since this is a peril. For combat encounters, we would gather all of our dice. We roll the dice and receive a total of 17. Step 4. We do not have any skills or potions to use at this time. We are required to first place the 3 die on the dungeon card and place the remaining dice totaling 14, which is greater than the 11 required, on the encounter card's wide box, so we successfully defeat this encounter without suffering any consequences in Step 5. In Step 6, we claim our loot. When selecting our loot, we have 3 options. The first is items. All items in this encounter can be added to the hero's items. On level 1, the hero can only add 1 card of items. The second is experience points. This encounter has 2 experience points that we can add to the level 1 card. The third option is a skill or potion. For this encounter card, the third option is a skill which would be placed under the hero's card. Potions would be placed under the turn reference card. We decide to claim the item and add it to the hero card. This hero can now roll 5 yellow strength dice. In future encounters, if we want to replace this item card with another, we can replace this encounter card and convert it to an experience card and add it next to the level card. We now start a new turn. Since we are starting a turn, we discard 2 cards from the encounter deck. We then decide if we want to explore by drawing a card or entering another room. Since there are 3 rooms remaining, we decide to enter another room. We find an ogre, which is a combat encounter. We then look at the combat dice box on the dungeon card and see that to defeat this box we must place a single yellow strength die with a value of 3 or greater. However, there is no green shield, so we do not have to address this box first or at all. If we are not able to place a yellow die here, the single heart indicates we will suffer 1 damage. We then consider the challenge boxes. There are 3 wide boxes showing the yellow die icon and 3 single boxes which require pink agility dice. The target values are printed in each box. The upper right corner shows a potential loot of 4 experience points, which is an indicator of the difficulty of this encounter. Since we just have 2 agility dice at this time, and have not had many turns to build up the hero's abilities, we elect to flee. The door remains open, but we do not suffer any consequences. Once a door is open, we cannot enter and flee again. We can only choose to encounter it in the future. We start a new turn and discard 2 more encounter cards. We then decide to either explore or enter a room. Since there are still 2 closed doors, we decide to open another door. We reveal a goblin, which is a combat encounter. We will choose to encounter the goblin, so we'll proceed to the encounter section on the turn reference card. We'll start with the first step in the encounter process. We do not have to make a choice since this is a combat encounter and not a peril. All of the special abilities and challenge boxes apply. We do not have any black heroic dice stored, so we cannot use our heroic feat. Since this is a combat encounter, we gather all of our dice and roll them together. We now roll and place our dice. We can now roll 5 yellow strength dice, 2 pink agility dice, and 1 magic die. We do not need to use any skills at this time, and since we have not suffered any damage yet, we do not need to use our healing potion. First, we take a look at the special ability which indicates that X equals 4 per open door. Since there are 2 open doors, X equals 8. Next, we check for any green shield boxes which are required to be overcome first before we can employ any other dice. The dungeon card requires a yellow strength die of 3 or greater, but does not have a shield on the combat side. There is 1 shield in a wide box requiring yellow strength dice, and since there is an X, the box requirement is 8. We can now place the yellow 6 and 2 in the wide box to meet the requirement. We are now free to place the remaining dice at our discretion. We can place a yellow 3 die on the dungeon card to prevent 1 health damage. We can place the other 3 die on the 3 strength challenge box. We can then place the remaining yellow 6 die on the last strength die box. There are 2 agility dice boxes remaining, requiring a minimum die value of 4 each. We will place the pink agility 4 die on the second box, since that has damage and time consequences. So we only have a pink agility 2 die and a blue magic 5 die remaining. Any 2 dice may be discarded to the general supply in exchange for 1 black heroic die of value equal to the lower die. However, that option is not helpful since we would only obtain a die value of 2 when a 4 is required. Therefore, we must leave the last challenge box open. Next, we suffer the consequences. The only die box uncovered shows a consequence of 1 time. We therefore discard 1 more encounter card from the top of the deck. Had there been any health damage, the red damage tokens would be placed on the hero card, and any black heroic dice would have been added to the heroic feat section for storage to be used in future turns. We return all dice to the general supply and claim our loot. We will claim the 2 experience points and place them next to the level 1 card, leaving the 2 experience points showing. When we acquire 6 experience points, we can replace the level 1 card with the level 2 card. Any used experience points are then discarded to the game box. Unused experience points are not discarded. These sample turns should give you an idea of how the game is played, including encountering perils in combat and how to improve your hero through obtaining loot and leveling up. Here are some more rules to keep in mind, including how to conduct the boss fight. Leveling up. At the end of an encounter, if the hero or party has enough experience points tucked under the current level card, everyone levels up. You remove the level card and cards with enough experience points to reach the next experience level, and place them in the game box since they will not return to the game. Any unused experience points are not removed, and can be applied to reaching the next level. Each level up will grant 1 free potion token and increase the hero's capacity for items and skills. The level card also indicates how many black heroic dice can be used in every encounter and boss fight round. Level 4 is the highest level. At level 4, you may spend 5 experience points to gain a potion instead of leveling up. Descending. When the encounter deck has been exhausted, you will see the stairs card indicating you can now descend to the next floor. When the stairs card is visible, you must place a damage token on it for each time spent for any reason. For every 3 damage tokens placed on the stairs card, 1 damage token is applied to the hero card, and the 3 tokens are removed from the stairs card. To descend, discard all doors currently in play and shuffle the discard pile to form a new encounter deck to be placed face down on top of the stairs card. Then, move the turn reference card down 1 level on the dungeon card to reveal the new floor's effects and challenge boxes. All visible effects and challenge boxes are now in effect, including the ones from the previous floors. The boss fight. When you descend from the 3rd and final floor, you turn the dungeon card over to reveal the boss. The boss fight consists of multiple rounds with the following steps. The health and special ability of the boss are listed on the bottom of the card. Recall that green shields must be addressed first before placing any other dice. Any uncovered challenge boxes result in consequences. You can place 1 damage token on the boss card for each skull icon covered in the challenge boxes. You must deal damage equal to or greater than its health value to defeat the boss. Campaign mode. There's a campaign mode that allows you to build up a hero's power over multiple plays. There's a campaign sheet pad included in the game to help you keep track of your hero's experience. Once you feel comfortable with the basic game, consult the rulebook to see how you can play your hero in campaign mode. Now let's review the winning and losing conditions of the game. To win, you must defeat the dungeon boss by inflicting damage equal to or greater than the health indicated. You lose whenever the number of damage tokens you receive equals your hero's health. Your hero's health can include additional health acquired as item. This concludes this review of One Deck Dungeon. Visit us at these sites and don't forget to leave a comment to share your experience with the game or to let us know what games you'd like to see reviewed. And if you'd like to experience something more exciting and death-defying than fighting a bloodthirsty dragon, stick around for our disclaimer. Coming up next.